I actually find myself drawn to my safe childhood places. And this is where I started to photograph. And wasn't intentionally going to be about this subject, I must say, from the beginning. I wasn't sure what it was, but I just felt that was important for me. And of course, because I worked very long with this. I started 2012, and I think the series was ready not until 2017. Also show that the home should be very safe, right? And in a relationship where there is violence and repeated act of violence, the home gets very unsafe, right?
And welcome to the show, Patricia.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Of course. I've been diving into your work, and you cover such I think a really important subject matter, and your work is so powerful. It took me a little bit to get you as far as scheduling goes, but I am so glad you're here. But to begin, just to start us off, introduce yourself to the audience and let us know who you are.
So I'm a Finnish photo artist living on the west coast on Finland. How can I describe the landscape? The landscape is very important for me, so I try to describe where I live. Hardly any hills, no mountains, very much forest. The sea is close by, and so that is something that is really important for me also in my art practice. I was studying photography. I have a bachelor from Novia University of Applied Science, just 1.5 hour driving from here up north. And I started study 97, and so I was 26 by then. And so I've done a bit of other stuffs as well, which I'm happy for, because I was really, when I was in that age, I was really also, encouraged to study and to learn as much as possible. And at that time, it was meanwhile I was studying, it came this digital breakthrough, or how to say. Yeah. So I'm basically countless hours in the darkroom has shaped me to how I work today, which I'm utterly grateful for. And last year, 2022, I did a master, the same school, but it's a master of culture and arts in the entrepreneurship of art photography. So that's my background in the photo field so far.
That's amazing. And you found it, I guess, at 26. And I'm kind of curious, were you always into art? What were you like before you were into photography?
Actually not. I mean, I was back and forth working as a local newspaper photographer. And that I've learned a lot from that. But before I started studying photography, I worked in the healthcare, or I took care of disabled persons. So I have a degree in that. But that was something. Also, the visual images has always been important to me, and I think to be creative has always been important. But I thought like at that time that it wasn't something to start trying to get a living from. But when I was 26, that has also something to do with that. It's like it was a life-changing moment because I just realized that I really want to try to see if I could get into the art school up here in Finland, and surprisingly, I did. So that time when I was studying the photo was it's I learned so much from friends that are still friends, you know, that those teachers who was there that was asking me the right questions to continuing. And actually this topic I'm working with now was something that that I started long time after I had studied photography. It started with my this personal project of mine, the most intimate hideaways, which is also a part of my personal history. Yeah.
That's interesting. It's so you were in healthcare,
Yeah.
and you kind of pivoted. What got you into photography? Yeah, obviously you started to experiment and stuff like that, and then I guess did you take those experiments and then apply to art school? What was what was that shift? There had to have been a moment.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. Yeah.
I think the moment was long before that, actually, because when I was 16, I learned from a friend the analogue approach, and I
Gotcha.
was totally fascinating about that. So I actually went to the local photo store here in Vasa, the closest city, to ask what would it cost for me to buy all the equipment to be able to do the black and white development and make the copies in my bathroom, or actually by then I was still living at home, so in my parents' bathroom. And yeah, so I actually bought the equipment, and I was totally hooked, and learned a lot there. And then life came between, and yeah, like I said, that how can I make a living of this? So I chose another direction. But of course, later on, then when I was 26, and these thoughts started to come again. But hey, probably the age as well, you know, that okay, am I going to do this forever, or am I going to follow my dreams? I guess that was it, and I just, you know, tried to get into the art school, and yeah, apparently I
So
did.
at that point, you've been experimenting with it for 10 years, and you found your way in
On and off.
yeah,
Yeah,
on and
absolutely. Yeah,
off, kind of,
yeah,
yeah.
on and off.
And
Yeah.
what were you taking pictures of? I'm curious, because
Well,
you now have a very powerful body of work, very developed, and so on. But like, I'm kind of curious, what was your early subject? What was?
well, I guess it was a lot of nature, my pets,
Yeah,
you know, friends, family, really basic stuff close to my environment where I was.
yeah.
Yeah. So nothing like arty, not at all.
No. But that's some of my favorite stuff to look through. I love that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Like
Yeah.
I talk about this show is often like I'm meeting photographers, and it's when I was younger, I used to go and meet folks, and they would show me their art, and they would open up that they'd have this portfolio box. They'd open it up, and they would just show you prints. And I feel like that's what this show is like to me. Like I get to
Yeah.
look through all of it. And um,
Yeah.
but often I get to see the more developed work. But I'm really curious about some of that early stuff, and
Mm.
I love that. Everyone says that too. It's like that early stuff. Oh, it's not professional. It's not that good. But I don't know. You can kind of see something that connects you there.
Yeah.
So it's in. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
No, I totally agree. I just wanted to, yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
I guess in school, you started to go to school. You put together a body of work. After you got out of college, were you still working in healthcare, or were you now kind of like, okay, I'm gonna be a photographer. I want to see if I can make my way this way. What happened after art school?
yeah. So when I was in art school, I got the contact to the local newspaper
Oh,
in
cool.
Vasa, which is the closest biggest city, which is small, about 70,000 inhabitants. And that was really good for me because um, eh, how to say it, boosted my self-esteem to be brave and go to, you have to meet people, and you have to be um, the agenda was quite busy, so you had to be fast and make fast decisions how to take portraits and so on. But so I learned a lot technically and also Photoshop. Uh, um, but then in some point I got like, fed up of this fast stuff. You needed to come
Mm.
up with decisions all the time, and of course you wanted to challenge yourself also to be good. So and also it was an urge to do something that really mattered, and dive into a subject that to allow yourself to be slow.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so I think that was, even if I was about 10 years on and off as a newspaper photographer, then the urge to do something else became more important. And
Were
after that, yeah,
So in school, did you? So you went and kind of transitioned to that's photojournalism. You kind of came direct, correct, and kind of in a documentary style per se, and does
yeah.
that is that what you studied, or did you study like fine art and art?
Well, it was actually the education had like the both sides. So
Oh, okay. So you
I'm
both.
utterly
That's awesome.
grateful for that, to be able
Yeah,
to
yeah,
do both stuff. I was very interested in the art. I mean, the tasks that we got from school, I was always um, do the arty stuff.
yeah,
Um, but I come from a middle class family where you work, so that kind of shaped me to also to be able to learn or earn a living from the stuff I loved, that to take photos.
yeah.
And after the newspaper stuff, I had the braveness to start my own firm, and I was lucky enough to find people who wanted to collaborate with me. So I done quite a lot of books as well. Been collaborating with writers or journalists, like or even organizations who wanted to make like a kind of more coffee table look books about their activity, or then with one journalist who was really keen into the subject of what's the name, self-sufficiency, like
Mm.
gardening and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
so actually that was also kind of part of where I actually could dive and do long-term projects more. I would say, yeah, dive into a topic, which also learned me to, zoom out and see the whole project from a bigger kind of perspective. Because when you work with somebody, you need to listen and learn what the writer um, wants from the pictures or the visual language,
Yeah.
and also, yeah, like I said, to learn how it is to really delve into something, and that the books maybe took like 1 year, each one of them, so I had the
Of
chance to
course.
really focus.
That is really, really interesting. And the reason I guess I separated it is because when I was going to school for photography, they had it in two separate schools. One was like photojournalism and documentary style was in it was like a communications degree. It was like, and then you had this other one, which was completely fine art and it was all conceptual. I wish I had both. I
Yeah.
wish I had,
Mm.
because like there's and maybe you can talk to me about that, and then we can kind of I can ask you another question. But I always felt like I was conceptually delivering kind of an emotional or even kind of a conceptual idea or a thought in arts. But sometimes in photojournalism you learn a skill of storytelling through frames. You
Mm.
unfold something like with a portrait or a landscape or a whatever. And I wish I would have gotten more of that. And so it's really cool to hear how you were able to use your education not only to sustain yourself, but to start a company, to even make your own art. I just think that's really, really interesting. So, who was your early inspirations?
Well, I can tell you a funny story because I when I was a child, I lived in Vasa with my family, and in the same backyard there were several families living, and there was this
Mhm.
guy always with his camera around his neck. His name is Gunnar Beckman, and he was maybe in his 30s, 35-ish age then, living with his wife. And he was like interested in our kids. We were a gang of kids, always in the backyard playing. And he arranged us and took photos and stuff. And I thought he was the coolest ever guy. And the fun fact is that later on, I was a colleague with him at the newspaper because he has been 40 years as a photojournalist at the newspaper, where I was also on and off working. And today we are in the same association, um, working. The activity of the association is the analogue approach, where there is courses and
Mhm.
stuff. And he's very active still in his 70s, keeping exhibitions and yeah, up to a good chat and a good discussions. And we even go together with for photo trips, doing photos together. And I think it's amazing. So
That is a really good
that's
story.
yeah, that's
It
my
is.
first influence. Yeah. um
Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
And it's that figure. You're like, wow, I can one day. That's a really, really interesting. And it's interesting how you crossed paths later. Um,
Yeah.
do you and you said you still collaborate and you do things. That's a really interesting twist there. What about artists? Who did you is there any particular artist that you like or books that you have read that kind of
Mhm.
inspire you?
Yeah, of course. A really early influence, it's Diane Arbus.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really impressed of her work, and I mean there are so many. There are so many. But to mention a few, Duane Michals was really, I thought I found him when I was studying, and I've been always coming back to his work. I think he's super interesting how he combined the written word with sequences of something happening, and I find it super interesting, this repetitive pattern. But then I'm also very influenced by the like modernist painters of in Finland. We have Helen Scherfbeck, Ellen Teesleff, Edith Södergran, which was a poet also at the same time, and Hilma af Klint, Georgia O'Keeffe. Like these women are breathtaking, their art. And then also to find new inspirational photographers. I mean, there are so many. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Laia Brill, for example. Amazing works. Yeah.
You know, you mentioned Georgia O'Keeffe. She was huge when I was growing up. I loved that work.
Yeah. Yes.
It just always made me want to go to New Mexico, you know? And,
yeah, exactly.
I was just like, I want to go.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to go. So.
Yeah. Her interpretations too of that landscape, and it was really, really good stuff. Go ahead.
And I think also this that she's saying, it takes time to see. That this is actually something that I've been thinking a lot lately. Like sometimes I'm maybe hesitating about this analog process. It's a very slow process, and I'm working very slow. But you know, comparing, sometimes in a younger age, you compare yourself how people are really fast and working quickly and so on, comes to a conclusion with their art very quickly. But I'm totally the opposite. But by age also, you know, accepted the way I work, that I think is very important.
Do you think still maintaining the analog process is kind of a response to kind of like your early work? I know you mentioned earlier that you were talking about, you know, doing work for the newspaper, and it was so fast, and you had to get in and get out and tell the story quickly and do all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that you maintaining an analog process, still even processing your film yourself, and doing all of that is kind of a response to that? Maybe it's to slow down and really think about something. Do you think that's why you did that? Is in kind of response to your early experience?
Absolutely, and I think it's a response to actually the speed of the society, generally speaking, as well. So
100%.
Because so when I go to load my 4x5-inch films in the cassettes, it's so already then I get it's like a meditative process. I need to be sharp to be able to, but it's a very tactile way of preparing. You know, you feel, you don't see anything, you are in total darkness, you just feel the film with your fingertips, and you know exactly where to open the cassette holder and put the film in. And so it's already from there, you know, it's preparing me for going into a mode that helps me be very focused. Also, the way, I mean, film are very expensive, so that is also something that I don't lightly take photos here and there. I really think through it. I plan it very well. I can even, with the Fall and Grace, when the women I asked fall for me, I even rehearse, but with a digital camera, to see, you know, how it would work out with the analog process. So yeah, absolutely. I think the way I work is a, I would say that I like to be this what's the word, somebody who is a bit against the speed of the society. That some I like to be slow. I like, yeah.
I think that is it's I think it's really thoughtful, and what I'm trying to explain, trying to connect here, I guess, is I've done quite a bit of these interviews, and I've met a lot of people that shoot 4x5, and I don't usually talk about gear too much. I partly due to the fact is when you're working in art, you know, you're really trying to express a thought, feeling. A lot of times it's an emotion. It's sometimes it's an abstraction, and the gear at that point is really kind of mute. It's really the final product or the expression of the thing. And what I found with people that do 4x5 is that it's almost somewhat meditative. They use this word a lot. It's a long process. It's a thoughtful process. It's a tactile process. And you know, I see that in your work, and you chose this particular process for your subject. So we can kind of talk a little bit about that if you want, and how that process kind of led you into the work that you do today. So talk to me a little bit about that. Talk about that process. Talk about that, what you're trying to do, what you're thinking about. Is it, are you thinking about a subject and you're trying to express yourself? Let me dive into your world a little bit there.
So I can, and first of all, I can say that I've been working with the same topic like for, I think, since 2012 actually, and the topic is domestic violence, exactly, and it comes from my own experience of an abusive relationship, and I think also the analog process is something that. So what I'm trying to do is not to have a technically perfect picture. I've always, that is something that I go, I'm not interested in. So, and I'm actually not interested in technique at all. I just learn what I need to learn. Talking about, for me, the camera is like, it becomes like just a tool of investigating a kind of spectrum of feelings that is directly connected to my experience of a violent relationship, and of course others' experiences as well. Yeah, did I? No, I'm off. What did you ask now? Sorry.
Well, it was a deep question, and it was really complex, and I buried a lot into it. So it wasn't very pointed. It was like an open door, more than anything. But what I was trying to get at is the process is very in depth, and it's a conscious choice from what I'm coming to. People aren't just doing it, you know, especially in the art world, just because it makes you unique. And no, there's something about that particular process that actually works really well with thinking deeply about something. And I'm kind of curious, like in here, you're talking about this subject of domestic violence and your own personal experience, and I'm kind of curious about that process for you. how this process works for you to make a project. And so it could be about gear. You're not talking about technique, obviously. You just kind of
Yeah.
you said that, but let's dive into a little bit about the projects that you work on, the subject matter, and why you decided to go that way, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it started with a very personal point of view. I actually find myself drawn to my safe childhood places. This is where I started to photograph, and wasn't intentionally going to be about this subject. I must say, from the beginning, I wasn't sure what it was, but I just felt that was important for me, and of course, because I worked very long with this. I started 2012, and I think the series was ready not until 2017.
Oh wow!
And of course, on the road, I realized what this is all about. So to picture my safe childhood places were to, also show that the home should be very safe, right? And in a relationship where there is violence and repeated act of violence, the home gets very unsafe, right? And a place where you don't find peace. And so this was something that I was thinking of, like hideaways. Yeah, to those were the places where I went mentally to hide. But then during the process and the project, I actually started when it was super cold. It was winter, and I had like really long exposure times, like up to 45 minutes sometimes. And during that exposure time, I was cold and was freezing. And I was once stumbling over the tripod. So it was like affecting, And I thought, I'll continue to exposure. And I saw the result that it made something, and it somehow the result accentuated what I was interested about, to try to picture the emotional atmosphere. Yeah. So I just saw that it was something good, and I think I'm very open to say that most of my works are, sometimes by mistakes you stumble into a new path, and I think this is something that I want to highlight also. I think it's super interesting and fascinating, how it works. Also, the unfinished approach, or the result, can be surprisingly good sometimes.
Yeah,
So
we call them happy accidents.
absolutely
Yeah,
happy accident.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
one of them. Then I continued the same way. So I intentionally started to hit the camera house, or kick the tripod, and actually by doing that, by somehow using violence against the tool I was using, was also kind of mentally, the process was important for me, emotionally as well. So I can say that it was a lot of anger and rage still in me during this first project, and I yeah, it was important for me. It was a black and white, that I used the black and white uh, images for also accentuate the kind of horrifying experience, or how to say, yeah.
I think you did a good job with that. You So I'm seeing you. You know, you've got this great meditative practice. You're using a process that slows you down intentionally. You're thinking, and you were kind of in this meditative state. I do a lot of meditation myself, and so sometimes when you get down into those places and you allow yourself to be open and just explore. You make discoveries that you didn't know were there, and you don't really understand it yet until you kind of continue that process. And as you unfold, you make a discovery. And with you, what I'm hearing is that you were using a camera to do that.
Yeah.
You were using a camera to kind of unfold this thing that was underneath, and you weren't sure yet, and then you found it.
Yeah.
And it took this form, and it's from what I'm in my research, it's this project called Unseen Circumstances, and it has about 5 different manifestations of that project. One is this one where you were kicking in the tripod, and it's almost a performative act that has an artifact at the end, you know, like almost like an imprint of itself, and it's so poetic. Just all in that because of the nature of the subject matter, because it leaves an impact, it leaves an impression. And so it's a really, really interesting manifestation. What other series kind of tie up into that? And then we can jump into those here in a second.
Yeah. um, so after the black and white, the most intimate Hideaways series, so where I use the landscape as a, how to say, depicting the feelings and atmospheres. But in the end, I wanted to try out if I could use a model like somebody, a sense of a person. So I did. I asked my artist friend if she could fall down in a river or a ditch. It was actually more of a ditch, but I was interesting to see if that could be added to the series. And I saw that I really liked what I saw. It became, I will show it later, it became a very abstract image. But that led me to the conclusion that I could include women who are like falling for me. And that was the next series. And I wanted to have that in color to somehow almost beautify the act. Because another thing is that in most okay, so I started from a victim perspective, and that is important. I think I wanted to be honest and tell my own story, but I think in it remains kind of static if you continue from that perspective. And I wanted to, generally speaking, about the issues and the multifaceted issue this is. For example, you asking the women to fall for me. So I wanted to recreate a violent act, but to take it out in the landscape, that anybody could see it, or anybody had a chance to react, and also the fact that the perpetrator is invisible. that was something that I was started to be very interested to somehow visually explore. And that's why the Fallen Grace series, how it was created. And you mentioned this performative strategy, and that is a really something that is really important for me becoming. And I saw it from the first series, and I've been somehow continuing with that. With the women falling, and then after that these burning dresses, and actually now I'm continuing, but with substances that are flying in the air or otherwise interacting with a person.
I think you did a great job setting this up and getting us ready to see what we're about to see. And so,
Yeah,
like, I'm very interested in seeing this next series. So let's take a look at some of those images. Let's share our screen,
yeah,
and
okay,
let's kind of dive into that visual language, because I think you've done you've created some kind of visual poetry. And so like you're expressing something that sometimes is hard to express. And
yeah,
I want to dive into this idea of victim mentality and victim perspective,
mm,
because that is really interesting. And I'm curious about your evolution there.
yeah.
And did it evolve into the project? Did it evolve the way you were thinking about this?
I would say that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
Yeah,
dive in and let's dive into
yeah.
that, because I'm very curious about that.
Okay, let's see. Share. So this is, I will show 3 pictures from my personal story, the most intimate hideaways. And to the series belongs 15 pictures, and actually also some poetry. I made a booklet where I put them all together, but they have also been exhibiting separately, just images. Um, so this is a hideaway, and what I was looking for was really like somewhere to hide, literally. And as I said earlier, that these are my safe from my safe childhood places. Uh, so I've been walking in the landscape before I took any photos. From time to time, walk a lot in the landscape and looking for locations. And when I decided where to take the photos, I come back another day when the light is right and so on, and take the photo. So yeah, this is where I explained the procedure I had by long exposure times and kicking the camera house, or hitting the camera house, or kicking the tripod. Um, so to say, to create an atmosphere of fear, or loneliness, or you feel helpless, and yeah,
It is extremely ominous feeling, but it's conflicting too to me,
yeah,
because it's aesthetically beautiful. I love it.
yeah, yeah,
But it's also, there's so much symbolism buried in here. Winter, of course, you know, snow on the ground and no leaves.
yeah,
It's got its own aesthetic. And then the black and white, you're almost confronted with that feeling. And so it's really, really strong. And what's interesting about this is this isn't like motion blur. When you kick in a long exposure, the camera repositions itself. And so this is it's Wow, it's a really interesting thought there. I'm now kind of hearing a little bit about the background and stuff that to see it kind of buried in this image. That other one too, the one previous is really, really interesting too. I really enjoy this image.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So
You can get
they're like,
lost there, looking
yeah,
up
like,
into those leaves in those
yeah,
branches.
yeah.
Yeah, and
So
it's
nature can be both, as I understood it. For me, nature is a place of source and restness, and where I, recover. Um, but some see them really threatening as well. So, and when of course talking about the subject, a hideaway is not a beautiful place, right? If you have to
usually
hide,
no,
yeah, if you
no.
want to hide from somewhere, that means you don't see the beauty in it. So
Yeah, in the flipping of the safe space.
yeah,
Usually home is safe space. That
yeah,
I'm home, is the
yeah,
safe space. And
exactly.
now you're like, I'm in the forest and that's the safe space. But
Yeah,
for generations up until now, being in the forest was dangerous. It was not
exactly. Yeah,
especially at night and in the winter, you're putting yourself at peril.
yeah,
And who knows what's out there that could get you, And so like to have that flipped on its head, wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the last picture is the one I said that where I wanted to try if a person could be part of the series, and I actually included it. I was very unsure for a very long time, but then I think that it somehow gives something to the series. And this is also I can tell you a happy accident, negative. But yeah, I used
Yeah.
to to use them anyway.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's quite stunning. And stunning in the way of um it's got a lot buried into it. Wow. That's wow.
yeah,
You,
yeah,
I'm rarely speechless, and I'm on a podcast, and so
yeah.
I love these, and
Mm,
I've seen this kind of multiple exposure approach, but knowing a little bit about the story and stuff like that, it's you're talking to me in a way that's really powerful and profound, and so I'm quite enjoying this.
yeah.
Um,
Thank you. Should I
in
continue with the
Of
next one?
course, of
Yeah,
course, of course. Let's jump
yeah.
into the next one.
All right. So this led me then to the series Fallen Grace, which the name was, and kind of the title comes very late, but Fallen Grace is referring to, fallen status. You are not respected anymore, and so on. And it actually, I wanted that name in the end because somehow some of the society's approach to this problem, this social issue, is that, or things that I've heard a lot, is that but why she's going back, she can, if she wants to go back, then it's her thing, So a bit like, um, how to say,
It's victim
un-
blaming. It's
victim blaming, yeah. So,
yeah,
and I think
yeah,
this issue is not black and white. It's really it's multifaceted
yeah,
issue.
multifaceted for sure. It's
Multifaceted, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I have a mentor that tells me look for the diamond. It's
Mm,
rarely black and white.
yeah,
And every situation is a diamond, and like a diamond, many faces to it, many
yeah,
angles. And
yeah,
it's one of the things that I really appreciated about this whole series, and I'm actually um, quite taken by the fact that you have multiple expressions of the same kind of topic. because you're showing the many faces to it, and
Yeah.
it's quite powerful. So I'll let you kind of talk about this angle and
Yeah.
let you jump back in.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that, because that is exactly also what I feel, that it's I'm not ready with the subject, because it's so, I started, like I said, I started from the victim's perspective, and I say now I continue from the survivor's perspective. But I think you have to say also, go to examine also the society's perspective and
Oh yeah,
attitudes, as well as the perpetrators. But I'm not yet there.
yeah,
Yeah. So fallen grace. I asked my friends, artist friends mostly, and other friends, to if they could be models for me in a conceptual way, and to uh, depict this violent act in the landscape. And as I said, I was interested to take the violent act out in the landscape for everyone to be able to see it and react. And there is just these. I have two images where they are falling in the water, especially here. Of course, I had just one chance, so there is just one unique negative. I think we tried. This was the third time, because I didn't succeed with light and exposure times and so on until this one. And for me, yeah, as I said, the landscape is important, and the fact that I wanted to create some kind of the repeated action is important. So because the violence is often repeated. So what I want to equal the repetition with that what is going on in an abusive relationship.
yeah.
Um,
You had also written in an interview that you were having these models do this, and you had found you had kind of found yourself in a perplexing situation. And
True.
do you know what I'm? Yeah. And can you talk to me about that a little bit? And
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I asked one artist friend if she could think of being a model for me in this particular Syrian, and she was hesitating and asking me that. Oh, she was saying that are you aware of that you become the perpetrator in this moment where you ask me to fall? I felt so.
you were like, "What? Hold on."
Yeah, exactly. But I felt that she partly was right, actually, and I had to think about why am I doing this, and I think partly I needed to repeat this action for myself to somehow understand the bad parts I've been through, and also to somehow also justify what I've been through. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
um,
100%. Yeah.
so, and of course, it was a very good question. And it happened that three of those seven women I was that was participating in my project had also been victim of an abusement in a relationship, and some of them that I wasn't even aware of. So that says also something about the taboo about this topic, um, and also the statistic about this, because every third woman has been experienced. That is the numbers of what the statistic is showing, that every third woman has experienced domestic violence, and that's a huge number.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that thought that you had there, and also how how that brought that up to you. It's almost that's another one of those facets that you're talking about:
Yeah,
the
yeah.
victim, the perpetrator, society, and
Mm.
it's a fascinating thing. Did you continue after that, and what were you thinking after that? I know if somebody were to deliver, I call those thought bombs. You know what I mean? Something
Mm.
that just
Yeah.
kind of just blows up your perspective and makes you kind of think about things a little differently. How did you? How did that affect you, and so on? I'm kind of curious.
Mm. Well, of course, it was. Um, Somehow, I felt that this is really important, that I do it.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah, for
I
sure.
continue. But of course, before that, as well as, but it became even more important for me to really create a safe space through these photo sessions. We had really good discussions, and um, you know, every time the friend was falling for me, I was it was very emotional, hard for both of us, I would say. Um, and so yeah, of course, I asked a lot from them. And of course, also when some of them had the same experience as me. But
Yeah,
I think also we have to address um, that if this could be healing, like become a healing process, a part of my healing process, then maybe it could also be a part of their healing process, as well as for somebody who as a viewer, which I really hope. And some of the feedback I've gotten comes from women who has the same experience, and somehow I think if you can, so what I would like to, here in this series, I still was, how to say, more into this problem and issue, the social issue, what the domestic violence is. But more now, I would like to transform that pain to something good. For example, the repetition and the repetitive in my art um, is is referring to the violent acts. But if you um, if you think about what that repeated action is doing, because it gets deeply rooted in your body, right? But that could also be transformed into another kind of mantra, I say. Like if you start to do something that is part of your healing process and you repeat that um, enough times, then that will also be anchored in your body, and you kind of transform the pain to something good. Um, is it making sense?
100%. 100.
Yeah,
It's just you're delivering thought bombs for me. So I am I'm processing it, and
yeah,
it's really quite thoughtful. It's powerful. I thought that story about you know, for you, it's like, and what I really enjoy about your work is that the process is almost as important as the end result, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And I think for me, it's uh, makes this series really strong, you know. And it actually it has I'm looking deeper into the image because of that.
Yeah.
And because it's got of course it's a very strong topic, it's but the whole, you're talking about trauma, you're talking about healing, you're talking about so much, and it's all buried into one image, and it's really, really powerful. And so this is just one manifestation. We're about to look at two more. Am I right? Or
Yeah.
Let's keep going and dive in
Absolutely.
deeper.
The Fall and Grace led me to do this next series, which I call Unreported, and I say it's like a manifestation towards violence against women, and again something floating in the air, and actually don't know from where does this idea came from with fire, to put fire on the dresses, but I came up with this idea, and it was the hottest summer ever and driest, so I had to wait and very long before I had the chance to take these photos. And curious, this is the first photo I took, and of course I couldn't do it alone. I had my partner with me and another friend who helped me, and we had no idea how fast clothes can burn. So we put benzene in the down, in the down part of the dress, and I had no idea if I had triggered the if I took any photo or not, because it went crazy fast, the whole process when it was burning the dress.
Yeah.
But this was
nylon.
the result.
If it's nylon, yeah, it will.
Oh no,
Yeah.
nylon is but what's the cotton dresses?
Oh, cotton too. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So, and of course,
wait, what's the process of this? Are you how do you catch them midair like that? Now I'm just a nerd about execution, but like the subject is great, but I'm like, how did you do that?
Yeah, no, exactly. No, it's a good question. Of course, I couldn't do it alone, and somebody was putting the fire on the dress in the down part of the dress.
The bottom part.
The bottom part, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was just waiting. This is hanging on a thread where you like a cloth thread.
It's a clothesline. Yeah, I see it now. Yeah.
This was easy, but of course the next one was a bit more tricky when I wanted to float in the air, and we had a metal stick, actually, very long metal stick, where this I don't know the name in English, where you put your clothes
like a fishing
on a
pole?
kind of shape. Sorry?
It's like a fishing pole kind of thing in a hanger?
Yeah, exactly. A hanger, and then on the metal stick, and then somebody was putting fire on the bottom part of the dress, and I was counting, and I said, okay, let go now. And then I took the photo. I had, of course, been framing before and so on. This was right after a heavy rainfall. It was thunder and stuff and heavy rainfall. So I was able to do it.
This one right here. Yeah. This one was very, this one was like the first image I saw from you. Yeah. And it's very evocative. And it's fire as a symbol itself, it's such a strong symbol, and hearing your subject matter and hearing what you're talking about, it's almost like there's a rage, there's a passion. It's just wow. I remember
Yeah.
seeing it, just thinking that. And I was so curious, and I'm so glad it ended up in the show today, because I want to know what you were thinking, and you're kind of getting there. I know you're getting there, but I had to stop you and just say what I say
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
about it. But continue.
Yes.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. No, but on the other hand, fire is also something that is alarming, like danger. But it's
Yeah.
also something
Yeah.
that cleans you up, something old that you want to leave.
Yeah.
And I think that's the strongest impression I have about this series, that you decided that this is enough, because unreported is also referring to the hidden statistic, the dark numbers um, of domestic violence, those who
Yeah.
are never
I never say a thing.
shedded in light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They never say a
Um,
thing.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and it's transformative too. It's there's a lot of people that say the flame is transformation, and
Yeah,
you through these moments they change you. You know,
yeah, yeah,
it's just there's so much in it.
yeah,
There's so much in it.
yeah. But I'm really happy that I've done this, because um, they are they are powerful for me still. I get, this is maybe the series that I get most feedback of as well
Really,
so far.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and they take it out into the open. There's, like I said, you have so much buried into these images, and they're powerful. And you know what was interesting is I go back to process again. You had these in mind, you knew what you were doing, and you were also very conscious not to start a fire. From what I read, you were like, anytime it rained, I knew it was safe enough to do these images. And so people would be on call. They were like, okay, she wants to do one of these. Am I
yeah,
right? Is that
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of how
yeah.
many of these did
Absolutely
you
right.
do? Yeah.
I have five, five
Okay.
to
Okay.
belongs to this series. Yeah. No, it was, I was, nerdly following the weather forecast, and
Yeah. You said you never
ah,
followed it in the interview.
yeah,
You're like, I never follow the weather. And
yeah,
now I'm
exactly.
like waiting for it. You're like, okay,
Yeah,
rain, I can do
yeah,
this. Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's so funny.
yeah. One thing
It's
that
not, but
really,
it's yeah, the subject's not, but like it's
yeah,
the process and the act of creating
yeah,
something.
yeah.
It's really really interesting.
Yeah, something that
Um
I want to add is that I was surprised with the result, because when you drop something and a dress, it comes air inside it, which it kind of personified the dresses. And I wasn't. That was something that I didn't count on. That was a surprise and a happy
oh
accident,
yeah.
maybe again.
Yeah. It's it's like the air fills it up and gives it a
Yeah,
form,
yeah,
almost a human form.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's kind of like this other one, the one that I told you that caught my attention. And it's one of the first images I saw
yeah.
from you. It's like whoever this is looking away from you and is just on fire. And
Mm.
and you can almost put anybody in that. You can almost imagine someone. It was just like,
Yeah,
whoa,
yeah, yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
wow. Um, yeah,
Yeah, should I go
yeah.
on with
Yeah, of
the last?
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just taking him in as we go here, and um, yeah. Let's move on to the next one. And this is the last little bit of the that we're going to take a look at. Okay,
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
okay.
Here is a series of five pictures. That is from 2021. Black silent holes surprises me. Mm, And again, it's this repeated action. But here, I mean, I was putting dresses on fire, and I saw that led me to this area that I wanted to have something hovering in the air, but like black. So it's this black textile, which is in different places, but yeah, now this time I wanted to have it on the same place, exactly the same frame almost, except the last image. The black image is something that you don't control, that just happens.
Wow.
Of course, here I couldn't. I'm always depending on people helping me.
Of course.
So this is the Syria where, and then again the last one here is. I wanted to add something like I wanted the human presence again, and also this is a self-portrait where the black textile is coming towards me. And from this series, this was also the first series where I started to photograph myself, that I've been continuing with.
What do you think that for you, when you see this blackness hovering, help me understand that a little bit more. What is this blackness for you? Is this this black mark that's always present with you? Is this this thing that's always there? It's almost like you can't get rid of it.
And, so it's about the healing process, actually, that
okay.
can, it's not linear. It's not like you do a therapy session and
then it's gone. Yeah.
And then it's gone. It's always there, and I think it's one thing that I would like to address in this topic is, of course, that it's a social problem. It's not a personal problem, but that it's also the healing process is very long. It can affect your way and you in different ways through a whole life, because of course it's affect your ability to trust others, the self-esteem and so on. You feel guilt, you are ashamed, and this series is about that. Whenever when you least know it can come unprocessed stuff to you in form of something that you need to look at to be able to heal. And I mean, maybe it's like an onion, you peel off a bit of and you think that's it. But then again, you just realize that there is a lot there to go to the core. And I think, speaking about what, if we need to speak about numbers, what does this cost to the society? I mean, also literally, people who have mental unhealth from this, or
mental
maybe
illness,
also,
and
physical like stuff that they need to deal with. So it's about the healing process, and also
that is
again repetition.
Yeah, it's so, once again, it's like you're bringing it full circle, and you're kind of unpacking something in such interesting visual ways that is so hard to unpack for people to understand. People that go through this kind of stuff, it's so hard to explain, you know?
Yeah.
And I think you're doing it in such a thoughtful way and getting people to not only just take in your image, but to ask questions in an interesting way that helps like deliver a type of profound understanding.
Yeah.
And I think that is something. Do you feel like that is what you're trying to do with this series?
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely, because I think what I want to address here is the fact that it is a social issue, that it is not a personal issue, but of course it is. If I see stuff that I would like to happen on this in this debate, is a kind of more clearer recognition from on a political agenda, because the thing is that in Finland we have too little places in the shelters. There is said that it shouldn't be more than 1 hour drive to the closest shelter, but that is not the case in eastern and northern Finland. So there is a lot to do, like actions, but I think we are talking about a more fundamental issue here, because to provide shelters is of course one thing, but I think we need to see it in a bigger perspective again. Like, of course, the healthcare is educated, but we need to see that it's a structural problem and a cultural problem. And in many layers in the society, I think there should be addressed this. And I'm also speaking about how what we learn in schools, small kids, and that we actually, like adults, we are all role models to be able to show that it's all feelings are okay, and learn how to address the feelings, but also to talk about them. This is, of course, huge to think about, but
yeah.
Maybe what I'm trying to say is to create an awareness of the multifaceted issue, social issue, as well as empathy. Yeah.
You've been working on it. I think we're in 2024 now. You started this in 2012, and you've had 12 years working on a subject. Do you? I'm going to ask you a personal question, and you can tell me to edit this out later if you want. But do you feel like this has helped you heal yourself? Do you feel like this was your way of kind of coping with it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've been thinking that, is it only for me I've done this? Hesitating that is it really? But on the other hand, I think this is the core of doing art. You need to go to those kind of places in yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, to see what's there, what hurts, maybe, what's your pain, or what interests you really, and what's your personal touch to that, and deal first with that, and then if then you can start to see it, like generally speaking, and from different perspective, but the same topic. I think because it's not that it opens up everything at once. In these 12 years, I started somewhere, and then I just discover more and more in myself, but also about this topic. And yeah, I think it's utterly important to if you're a photographer today to really not see what others want you to do. But no, it's really about your passion and your core and your what's in your heart.
You know, and I think that's what all great art does. And some of our great stories and books are these journeys, and we follow a person on a journey through an experience. And often these experiences are shared experiences. And by reading the book and going through those stories, especially with art, these works provide something for our society to ask questions, to maybe help heal, or to provide a pathway of that. And I think that's what you've done here. You've created that kind of thing. And I know you said you had asked yourself, am I just doing this for myself? But you could have said that about anybody that's wrote a book about their own personal story that's helped thousands of people come to terms with what they went through. And they go, oh, it wasn't just me.
Yeah, exactly.
It was something else, you know, and that's the great movies, the great books, the great projects. They do that. And I think you did that here. And my next question is how does this project make its way? And I saw it in Urbanaut. So is this a book, or is this an exhibition? How do you bring this to the public?
So I've done some exhibitions about this. The Unseen Circumstances has been showed in different places in Finland, and also in Latvia, in Riga and Sweden. So mostly exhibitions, but I'm also interested to share, like, maybe I think a book is a really good way to show another kind of dramaturgy. Also, I might have mentioned that I sometimes write as well. So this is something that I'm interested now to explore, images and text in a book. And I've been in Paula Roche workshop. She's London-based artist doing great this self independent books where you can fold and do your print and fold your books yourself, and this is something that I'm into now.
I think it'd be a great book, you know, and it's such it can be an intimate topic, and to have something that's intimate, like that,
exactly,
I think would be really, really strong. I think going to an exhibition, even though it would look amazing in an exhibition, you know, it's out there in the public again, you know. And so I think having this work, I think would have, it's so good. And I think it's so powerful, and so many people can relate to it. I think a book would be amazing. Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah, I hope in the future.
Well, you have my endorsement. I think you should. And I would love to see what you're writing. I would love, because I love reading too. And I think it would be great with writing. And I do have another question, and this is kind of a larger thing. And it's going to come in two parts. And so I'm going to ask this first part is, what's the reception like for this project? What kind of feedback do you get?
I get very good feedback, actually. People are they recognize the issue, and they they think it's an important topic to be artistically explored, like I do. And yeah, like I might have mentioned earlier, that it opens up for discussions, for others' experience as well. So of course, it's sometimes I cry together with somebody else, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that is something also that unites us, let's say, as well, and that is keeping me going on, and continue
Yeah. Through
with
your
this.
own process of healing, you're helping others heal. And
I hope so. I really,
that's
really hope
what,
so. Yeah,
well, and that's what my mentor tells me all the time. They say, heal yourself and you'll heal
yeah,
the world. And that's what they say.
yeah,
And I love that comment. And it's really interesting. And like, this is the other part to it is, I think violence is a huge thing in society right now. It's one of the biggest things I'm concerned about. It's
yes,
littering every part of our
yeah,
society. And it's strange. This topic is not. It seems to be increasing, even with COVID and other things like that. I even read an article that 1 in 4
yeah,
men are experiencing domestic violence. Have
yeah.
men come up to you too and said, "Oh my God, this project"? I'm curious.
Actually, yes, one has done that,
Wow.
but yeah, it mostly women, and of course,
Yeah, of
it's good
course, of
that you
course.
mentioned that this is happening in all kind of social levels, as well as all kind of also both men and women, and there between. I mean, it's everywhere. Um,
Yeah, and children,
so
and it's just like
yeah, yeah,
it's something that it's one of those things that just keeps me up at night. Like one of those.
yeah,
And it's so powerful because a lot of times when I see work about this, it's so graphic and it's just so
mm,
there. The way you're doing it is it's so like, it's inviting you to take a deeper look. And
yeah,
that's what I like about it.
yeah. Well,
And
thank you.
that's what makes it so powerful.
Yeah.
And and I love the nuance. And some of my favorite artists have a nuance to what they're doing. And you have the nuance buried in there too. It's the multiple ways that this takes form. And I'm a fan. I'm a big fan.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Thank you.
of course, of course. And
Mhm.
so I do have my final question, which is just to kind of wrap up the whole show. Is do you have any advice for people that are up and coming artists that may be trying to make their way as artists and are trying to make their way? Do you have any like advice for anybody that's trying to maybe be an artist themselves?
Definitely, I would like to say that was into earlier also, that the core that might hurt or be a pain in you, and that's maybe something that you don't want to deal with. Maybe you should go there then to have a look. I mean, you can choose if you process that by yourself with pictures, but it can lead somewhere, because I always think that the more we know each other, I mean, know us ourselves, and have a good knowledge about how you work and um, how you are as a human being, then from there on you find the core of what you want to say and tell, because we are visual storyteller. And I also would like to say that take your time, don't hurry.
Yeah.
That is something that I would. And a third thing is that um, if you have a big project you've been going on for a while, maybe ask somebody to help if you feel stuck. You know that there are so many persons who could like guide you with comments or help you to edit or something. That is also something I see that people get stuck if they in their project if they have too much material.
Of course, and some people don't even know they're done. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
you have something. You should probably. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to choose.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I totally admit. Yeah. But yeah.
I think that's great advice. I love that. Going to the core. It's a lot of people frame it up as, whatever, piques your interest or whatever. But I think with you, what I really enjoyed with you was you were just exploring and you were meditating almost in a sense, and you were finding something that you just had to have answers to or make sense of. And you expressed yourself in that way, and it made its way into your work. And I think it's beautiful. So thank you so much for coming today and joining me on the show. It was an amazing one. So thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It was really a pleasure to be talking to you, Patrick.
Yeah, it was really, really great. And how can people find you? Are you on Instagram or do you have a website?
Instagram.
Okay.
I do have. Yeah. And there you can see the whole Unseen Circumstances series. Yeah.
Okay. And the website is
patriciarodas.com.
Yeah. So it's yourname.com. And is it the same for Instagram?
There is patriciarodas.photo, I think, because there is a Honduran politician with the same name. So
hey, easy. I'm just kidding. So you had to differentiate yourself there. Maybe you should have did .Rodas. Maybe I don't know. The handles are something else. So thank you so much again, and I really, really appreciate it. And so it was really, really great. And to all those that have made it this far, thank you so much for joining us on the Urbanaut Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you did, please consider liking, sharing, and commenting down below. We love reading the comments, and it also helps us with the algorithm. I think a lot of people would love to see the show. And if you like and share and comment, that all helps the algorithm, believe it or not. It's something we have to worry about these days. But also, if you want to support shows like this, also consider joining our Patreon on patreon.com. It's also under the name The Urbanaut Podcast. And as always, we'll see you next time.